Hey Legend, what's happening? Jade here, and I'm going to be taking you through the next module, which is around values. So I trust that you had an awesome time going through learning about different roles that have been present in your experience, and then also had just as much fun looking at the parts that you're going to reclaim. So the next step is for us to dive into the values that are aligned to your identity. And what we're going to be covering is we're going to be having a look at, like, what is a value. Some of you may understand the term, some may not, and that's cool. So we're going to cater for everybody. We're going to look at the different types of values, and we're going to look at some of the distinctions between the types of values. It's very important we do that so that when you do the activity at the end, you understand what you're eliciting, what you're pulling out, and what to identify. The next thing I'm going to take you through is an emotional hierarchy, which is looking at a scale of all these different emotions and the language that we put around some of the emotions. This is going to help you set up to do the compelling future exercise, which you'll be doing before we have our one-on-one integration, to essentially look at the current values that you have and then elicit some new ones and install those for you. So this is probably one of my favorite pieces of transformational work, because values are the driving force behind what we do. It's the values that we have are the upfront motivation that happens before anything else. We have a thought, we think about it, and then boom, if it's a value that we have, we're off. It's like that, we're gone. So this is what we're going to be creating for you. Now let's first talk about why this work is important. If we don't do work around our values, we've just resigned from a role that's been in place, running the show for a little while, right? Driving your bus. And so the problem is if we don't do the work to install some values that are aligned with these new parts that you're wanting to reclaim, then your bus can still sort of go in directions that you don't want it to go, right? And that's because the values that have been in place and that are still in place belong to the role that we've just resigned from. So we need to take a look at the values and make sure they're in alignment with who you're now becoming and who you're reclaiming. So that's key. And when it comes to values, as I said, are the upfront motivation. They determine the actions that we take and the results that we get ultimately, because that's based on action. And so if we don't understand our values, if we don't have awareness of our values, every decision just looks like, where the fuck am I going, right? So it's just, it can become a waste of time. Whereas if we've got awareness around our values, then we're good to go. We don't need all this confusion. We're just like, boom, that's where I'm going. So that's, if we don't have our values, then it looks like this, where it's just every single decision we go to make, we have to think through it and, pros and cons and all the rest of it. So this takes up too much time. We also can feel held back. It's like, boom, we've just resigned from this role, feeling good. And then we got to act, and it's like, if those values, if we've still got old values or we don't understand our values, then we're like, I'm good to go, I'm reclaiming me, and then we go to jump towards something and it doesn't happen. So that can be, and that can be like, what you call it? What's the bloody word I'm looking for? It can be not demotivating, but we can start to doubt ourselves, right? And think, is this really happening for me, or am I the exception? And we don't want that to happen. We want to be reclaiming those parts of ourselves and going for the shit that we want. So that's why it's important. Now, more on that. Once we do look at our values, understand them, choose them, and integrate them, then our heart, our soul, and our head and our feet, the stuff, the part that's doing the walking, are all working together. Okay, so the feet aren't going one way and the head and the heart, soul going the other way. It's like, no, we're moving together as one. So very important. And it brings that alignment into what we're doing. So we, as I said, values like that, the driving force behind what we do, that upfront motivation. So what happens is we have the thought, and that's coming from our head, our heart, wherever it's coming from. And then our values kick in going, yep, that's something I want to do. And so everything is in alignment from what we're thinking, what we're feeling, and then what we're doing. So it's beautiful. It's an awesome symphony to watch once you understand your values and you see everything happening in alignment. And then ultimately, as a result of having all that good shit happening, we're getting off the mark quicker, right? We decide we want to do something and we're off in our own race, right? On our own race, not racing with anybody else in particular, but we're off the mark and we're breaking through our own barriers, our own finish lines faster, quicker, and that creates the feeling of enjoyment on the journey. So it's just, value is awesome. So